Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, the podcast where we explore growth, resilience, and lessons that shape our journeys.
I'm Barry, and I'm here with my brother Timoni. Together we dive into honest conversations about life, success, and everything in between.
This is a space for relatable insights, practical advice, and stories that help you carve your own path.
So let's look beyond the blueprint.
Do you run a trucking company? Axelrod TMS manages your orders and documents, your workshop and repairs, and your fuel expenses. Plus, it has AI and advanced analytics. Increase your profits, take control, and make smarter decisions. Join Zambia's first AI-powered trucking system for 6 months free at axelrodtms.com to get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Blueprint podcast. I don't even know where to start. I'll start with the fact that we've been getting a lot of love. Our numbers are increasing. So thank you very much, guys. We really, really appreciate your support. 3 house rules, or do we do the house rules after the intros? No, I'm just going to do them now. Like, share, subscribe. It's 4 house rules. Why do I keep saying 3? Like, share, subscribe, and pay it forward. Timweni, how are you doing? Hold on. Sorry.
And I know what else you forgot.
My name is Barry Chamulonde. I'm a host on the podcast. Timweni, how are you doing?
Cool. I'm Timweni Chamulonde. I'm equally a host on the podcast. So we co-host it together. I want to start by saying it's our younger brother's birthday, Eustace. So shout out to you, bro. I hope you have an amazing one, and keep aspiring for more, keep working hard. And we love you. So I just wanted to point that out. But I am great. It's good. It's a good Saturday morning, about to have an amazing conversation with someone who, funny enough, we've already had so many mini podcasts that I just hope this episode, and I know this episode will live up to those conversations that we've had, because I was blown away by some of the stuff that we've already spoken about, and I'm sure today will blow me away as well. So I'm great, man. And how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I was waiting I was waiting for you not to ask me. Yeah. No, I'm good, thanks. Work's busy, the usual. Had to come down to Columbilla, which actually leads me into the next thing. We just want to give a shout to Trident Country Club. You guys can't see in the back because the blinds are down. It's in TW, which is Trident Woods Estate, which is owned by First Quantum Minerals Trident. They were kind enough to let us use their space. So if you're ever up in this side of the world and you have the opportunity of checking them out, please do. I'm good. Work's busy, life's busy, the usual, the wheels are turning. But anyway, for those of you that are listening, there's a person sitting between us. And for those of you that are watching, you can clearly see there's a person sitting between us. So we won't make it any more awkward. Klein, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. Cold, but doing okay.
No. It is July, so
it is quite cold, and we have to have the ACs on in here so we don't sweat on screen.
Yeah.
So we're freezing that bit more. But that's all you have for how you're doing?
Yeah, life's good. Never want to look for things to complain about. So for the things that are important, everything's fine.
Okay, all right. Nice. I think we got an interesting episode. Do you want to icebreak?
Icebreakers, 100%. So for those who are new here, we do this 45-second elevator pitch sort of thing. So just tell us about yourself. We'll give you 45 seconds. I'll turn on the time on my phone.
No pressure. And please lead with your name.
Oh yeah, that's always a good place to start so that at least people know who you are.
All right.
And you got 45 seconds. There you go.
Thank you. Name is Klein Sitwala. Barry and I know each other through work. I'm a project lead in a department that supports his work. I have a lot of things going on for myself. I think I'm pretty happy with where I am job-wise. I'm pretty happy with what I'm trying to do business-wise. Happy with my family and relationships. I think everything is, that's where life is at the moment. I don't know if we're going to touch on this at some point, but 45 seconds, you want to say something interesting. I did tear my ACL 2024, I think, so still trying to, I was going to say I'm trying to learn how to walk, but I'm walking fine. Just trying to rehab the thigh to a place where it can do the things it used to do. So I think that's one interesting thing about me. And 45 seconds is up.
On the dot.
Yeah. I shouldn't have shown on the timer.
So that's going
to crumble.
Yeah, no, I fit everything in.
Yeah.
So mine is, what's something about you that if the listeners found out, they would be surprised by?
Oh, I actually thought about this one. even if I didn't think about the previous one. The thing I think people would be surprised finding out about me is I listen to ASMR videos sometimes to like relax or calm down or just like even fall asleep. Yeah. They're pretty weird. I think it's not normal content, but it works.
I think I like ASMR content. I've never actually checked what ASMR stands for.
Yeah, I remember knowing the what the abbreviation stands for.
But I like ASMR content.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
yeah, like it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
anyway, yeah.
I think those are
vibes.
There's a lot of things that came out of that. Business and relationships. We work together, which it's clear, I guess. Tore your ACL, which must mean that there's some athleticism in there. Dripping Marsha, full Marsha. By the way, Marsha, if you're looking to sponsor an episode, or drip us out as well. We're not complaining.
Yeah,
like we'd be happy to be wearing Marsha on screen.
Nice
Yeah.
And I mean, a bit of an insight on that. You say you actually know the person that started the business or owns the business. Yeah. So let's unpack. So for context, we obviously need to let the listeners who don't know you like try and work out who you are.
Yeah.
And when you say certain things, they need to sort of understand, okay, he probably says that because of that. So we like to just like breeze through early childhood.
Yeah.
You know, when you were in uni at some stage or high school, leading up to this point. And in true Beyond the Blueprint style, we like a story.
Tell us a story.
So you have to tell us a story, a memorable moment from when you were young.
Okay. I'll give you one memorable moment when I was young. I was listening to you ask the questions like, where's it going? And then as soon as I hear it's like, what's the answer? I have it. So when I was young, one thing that my mom sort of got me into was, first of all, it was reading. So I used to like reading a lot. And then like you'd have older people asking you, they're always asking like what do you want to be when you grow up? What stuff do you like doing? And for me, it was always I like reading. So we start with reading. Then after reading, it transitioned from reading to telling stories at church. So I would frequently, like you'd find like 3 weeks out of a month, there's like a children's sort of lesson, children's story section at church. And I'd be the one telling the stories. It'd be a thing where you have to like read the story throughout the week, memorize it, then go in front of the church and just like recite what you read. So I think it helped with memory. I think it helped with training. I think it helped me get comfortable talking to people. And the story in this case is there was a time because again, you also taught how to pray and whatnot, right? So there was a time I had like a really long one. So then you get to, the front of the church and your brain is literally just like going word for word. Like, this is what I read. This is what I read. You're just in this nearly unconscious stream of saying what you read, and you've spoken for so long that your brain is like, the only time I speak this long is when I'm praying. So instead of saying like kind of that's the end of the story, I went and said, in Jesus' name I pray, amen, at the end of the story. Okay. So yeah, that's one pretty interesting thing.
Did the church like laugh? Or?
Yeah, it was something to laugh about. I kind of laughed it off myself. But yeah, that's one thing that came to mind immediately. Asked the question.
And how old were you, or what grade were you in?
Really young. Under 10 years old. So I think I was doing this maybe like 7 going up. Yeah.
Okay, so your mom's present and she's obviously trying to instill, good habits in you and those types of things. Do you have siblings?
Yes, 2 young brothers. I gather you are also like an all boys team. Yeah. So it's 2 young brothers for me. I did grow up with my cousin from, say, something like, I don't know, so 12 years old or so, up till we were done with uni. So I kind of have like a sister. You just know how African culture, our family values are high. So yeah, I do have a sister, but strictly speaking, it's 2 young brothers, and then her who's my age. So we, I don't know, co-parented when my parents were not home.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. So for me, it's just, have you always been comfortable speaking in front of large crowds, or, presenting?
Well, thank you for asking.
Because you're going to ask.
No, but thanks for asking.
Okay.
I know why he said that. So, I mean, I did reference the, telling stories in church thing. I think it felt like it came naturally in the beginning. There's one thing that I've heard people say before where it's like there's very few fears. I think the only fear that you have innately is like the fear of falling. The rest is learned fear. So when I started, I didn't know talking to lots of people is something that people should be scared of. And I think there was a point in life where I actually learned it, and it used to creep in a little bit, like where you find yourself a bit scared when you're in front of a crowd. But that was after I had already established a framework for how to do it. Yeah. So then I had to just unlearn that fear a little bit. But so it's certainly part of my personality anyway. I'm pretty extroverted. With all the, church stories that I did, it sat in me somewhere where it's like you stand in front of a crowd, there's something to deliver. And so now it's nearly, performative now. It's like you stand in front of a crowd and you're like, the camera's rolling now, but then it was just like they're looking, they're expecting something, deliver something. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us, of course, you've told us childhood. You've given us an insight on what the family dynamic looks like. High school, maybe uni. Mm-hmm. What's the memorable story there?
I think both of those I consider to be formative in just making me who I am. They were very funny, very interesting years. High school, there was, it's sort of going through different stages in life. So now both uni and high school, actually, the rebellious side of you comes out a little bit. If there was rascal tendencies that were, being curbed when you were younger, they sort of start leaking out. And you just try to manage this thing of you're going through whatever growing is. And at the same time, you still have to do enough to have a chance of having a future in life. So yeah, I think that was the balance I tried to strike in high school. I'm still pretty close to like my 3 closest high school friends. We were, I don't call them cliques, but yeah, we hung out quite.
Your age is showing. Nobody says cliques.
Thank you very much.
Nobody says cliques.
I did say I don't call them that, but yeah. That's what they'd be called then anyway. But yeah, so I'm still pretty close to those guys. And yeah, when it comes to uni, even more of that sort of rebellious leakage.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. You're telling us generic stuff.
What do you want to know?
We want a story. We want a rebellious story when you must have done something and your mom brought you up.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
No. So, there was enough times my mom beat me up. But the one I remember is I had already got a bit of a reputation for, talking out of turn. Again, the whole extroverted thing, like I say things. So one time my English teacher came to class, and also there's nothing wrong with saying English teacher. Teacher of English isn't a rule. But yes, she came to class and she was in an interesting top. So I just started giggling at the front of the class.
What do you mean by interesting?
So I was giggling at the front of the class, and she looks at me and asks, what are you laughing about? And I had already told my friend what I was laughing about, and he was losing it as well. And I didn't want to say what I was laughing about, but then she asks him and says, I'm going to kick you both out if you don't say what it is. And he just goes like, well, he said your top looks like you're the manager at ShopRite, which it did.
Oh,
it was like it was like a white top with like no, it was speckled. There was the speckled, like I think blue and red sort of one. Exactly.
I'm assuming she kicked you out then.
Immediately. Immediately. So yeah, I spent that English period just like.
What did the other? Was this in front of all the other students?
Yes, it was.
Did they break out in laughter?
Yes, they did.
Hectic.
Listening to you speak, it's got me thinking.
Yeah,
you've got you're unique. From speaking to you and interacting with you, you're unique. And I was telling Barry this yesterday. I'm like, there's only a couple of people that I've met that are like you. And what I mean by that is there's a way that you present, there's a way that you speak, there's a way that you carry yourself. And it's interesting. I find it very interesting. You're, I don't really have the words to describe you, but you're very like upfront. You're very like, enthusiastic, charismatic. You're very fun. There's just a vibe.
Thank you.
The question I have is like, is this a thing you figured out along the way, the person you want to be, or it's always just naturally been that way?
And before you answer that, what I want to ask is, do you find people not taking you seriously? Because they feel like every single time you speak, you're in a good mood or bubbly, or I don't know, like, you're always a fun guy.
Yeah. So 2 questions. I will start with yours because it reminded me of something that happened like during my first internship. I worked with very interesting person, and like in the first week after working with her, I was still in uni. I was still in uni, but doing an internship at the same time. So actually, there'd be like missed periods because I'm going to work. And I liked her. I don't know what it was about her vibe, but you just look at her and think like, okay, I want to get to where this person is in life. So my young uni impressionable self drew up a mentorship contract and just went up to her desk and said, like, I want you to be my mentor. And she laughed. I'm not signing this. Like, no, it's not happening. No. But then that same person at one point or the other told me something I still remember today. She said, no one is better than you at being you, so just do that. You get what I mean? It feels like sometimes you want to like navigate life with like, what's the right version of yourself to give off? Or, if that's the way that person is acting for them to succeed, do I also need to act like that? But it's like, first of all, you being you has got you where you are now. And then second of all, again, no one can outdo you at being you. So just be that. So that's where that comes from, I guess. Like that's the answer to that. When we get to the question of now, do I find people not taking me seriously? I think you have to have a balance, and I can, in certain, instances where it feels like I need to be clear that I'm being serious, I can do it. I think I did it with you last night. Weirdly, when I shared something with you, and then I said, your next task is this. And I think like I saw your facial expression change where it's like did he just like get serious with me for a second?
Right now.
Yeah.
I actually can't remember.
I remember that. Like, now you need to give me feedback. I remember that.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. So it can happen, but I've never really noticed that as a problem, really.
So one thing I've picked up about people is sometimes life's got a very funny way of like foreshadowing, right? So you're in project management now.
Yeah.
Have you always been the guy who is a crowd puller, or very good at getting your mates to do things and stuff? Because to be a project manager, you essentially need to get people to like be congruent and work together.
Yes. That's an interesting question. I don't know if I have a thing where for the times when people have gathered around me on anything, I never felt like I was trying that hard to convince them. You understand what I mean? Yeah. And maybe it goes to the supposed enthusiasm, but if I'm energetic or passionate enough about something, people will believe, like he's not lying, you know what I mean? And you tell if I was faking my love for anything. So I think that's where that comes from. And then when we get to like the project management side of things, I think you just try to apply it as professionally as you can, and then you go from there. So
I recently watched something that said, like we've got some people call them villains. It depends on which side you're standing on. Like, and I'm going to use Hitler as an example. And they say people call people like Hitler monsters. But I don't think they could have convinced that many people to do what they did by being monsters. Like there has to be some underlying charisma or ability to convince people, because it's not like, he might have ruled with an iron fist, but as he ruled with an iron fist, there was people that were backing him as he was doing that. And only the people that were trying to take away from what he was trying to do. So, it's just, as he says that, I've been thinking about that over the last couple of weeks. Like sometimes we say this person is bad. They managed to influence people not to do things but then they probably have a skill. Like what they influence them to do might be the bad thing, but the ability to influence itself might not necessarily be a bad thing. But anyway, that's just me being a human being and thinking about stuff. Okay, so you've let us in on quite a lot. Where I want to go is I want us to unpack some of the things that you're currently navigating. Like what's going on now? You're Mr. Enthusiastic project manager doing the most. What are you navigating at the moment?
Mr. Enthusiastic is funny because I'm just being myself. So when I'm told what the trait is, I find it very funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what am I navigating? I'm doing a lot of things. I think if I were to summarize it, I'm trying to get like a high quality, high value set of results for my employers. I take pride in that. The next is outside my employment. I think we all try to make something of ourselves beyond just what people ask us to do and pay us to do. So I've got a company called Week 42, and we've got a flagship product called Axelrod. It's a transport management system for scaling fleets. So yeah, there's that I'm trying to, push across the line as well. And yeah, the rest is just life. Family, I need to call my mom, so I will do that. And I will be seeing, she hasn't seen this yet, so I can say it here, but I will be like traveling to just go spend time with my family in Lusaka, because where we work was sort of away from the rest of the world. And so there's family, and then relationship. I think I'm also doing great there as well, just trying to see how far we can take it.
Why do you call it why week 42? Obviously, that's a year.
Great question. No, it's the 42nd week of a very particular year. It was the first time I did crisis management in a work setting. I don't know how much crisis management I did outside work settings.
Crisis management?
Yes. And it's not like, we've started crisis management now. No, it's just that there's a business crisis and you are the one who is fielding the calls from the clients. You are also the one who is trying to organize the team to clean up the crisis. And for the people that are also fielding questions from the clients, when they don't have answers, they're coming to you. So you are holding it down. The CEO knows something is wrong, but actually isn't, not because they're not necessarily paying attention to the company, but the reason they employed you is so that they don't always have to think about this. So they're not there until there's something to escalate. So now the fire is on your laps. And
Please give a practical example.
Yes, I will tell you the story.
Getting there. Okay.
Yes. So what happened was, without giving too much detail, we basically, because I was project managing an IT team. So we had a scenario where we had to archive data so that we sort of improve the performance of our system. And in archiving data, we archived transaction data, and that data that we archived changed the running balances that were showing on our clients' accounts. Because essentially you've moved these sort of deductions from their account to a separate place. So now when they log into the system, then they find themselves with an incredibly high positive balance. So if you were sort of owing us money to the tune of, say, 42,000 on Friday, you come on Monday and you find your account has 16 million. Why? And now it's like, okay, what joke is this? Why do I suddenly have a balance I can't rely on? I know I'm owing, it just does not make sense. Where has 16 million suddenly come from? And this is now across the board. And you'd think, I guess we work in a very honest business environment. Weirdly, when you hear these stories of people who, 1 million got accidentally posted to their account, everyone thinks you're supposed to shut up about it. But this is business. I'm trying to run something. I need to know how much, in debt to you we are, or how much my account still has funds. And no one is going to wake up and take that lightly. So we were fielding calls for that, while at the same time, there was another crisis where basically the transactions that are supposed to happen in those accounts could not happen because we had tried to set up some type of security feature that it just didn't work the way it would. Basically, it was stopping even legitimate transactions. So now you're fielding calls relating to all those things at the same time. Clients are saying, give me my money back now. I just signed up for you. And this is not the experience I was expecting. And I remember thinking to myself in that time, like, if I start something for myself, it's not supposed to ever be possible for this to happen. So then I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life, when is this happening? So that will be the guiding principle for how I run what I'm going to start for myself. And it was the 42nd week of the particular year. And I just said, okay, then the company is week 42.
So what you're saying is that you wanted to sort of like make that memory stick, that you never want to have a crisis.
Never. And you will experience a crisis in business, but I think there's a certain element of negligence. There's a certain element of not crossing your T's and dotting your I's that seemed to have happened in that scenario. And I remember there are some failures that I've never understood why, for example, every once in a while, British Prime Minister will experience a bad failure and they have to resign.
Yes. I know. It happens like every year or a couple of years. Yeah.
Exactly.
That does happen.
It's like they just feel like, okay, this was too bad. I have to resign. I never used to understand it. Like, you just take the L, you move on. Except when I was in that particular moment, I felt if I'm genuinely leading this situation, this is not supposed to be possible. And if it has happened, I failed. I don't deserve this. Like, I was legitimately considering like handing in my resignation. Like, it was embarrassing on a personal level to have to go through that. So yeah, I just said if I think about it in everything that I do, I will at least remember that there's some things that you have to make sure are in place before taking certain actions.
That's a very interesting backstory to why it's called Week 42.
Yeah.
My next question will be why the flagship product is called Axelrod, but I just wanted to take a very slight tangent. Just talking about like the banking sector. How honest are they about money? You know, like, let's assume someone in the bank steals, 500,000 kwacha. Do you think they always like put that out and publicize it and say, someone stole 500,000 kwacha, they sweep it under the rug, and you never know about it?
You know what I've come to learn from working, especially in like in a large entity, or seeing like obviously transactions of huge volume, is first things first, a lot of this stuff is based off trust. Like, we have all these controls and systems in place, but a lot of the times these controls and systems are bypassed and we just work off trust. Like, if we had to run an audit of how many transactions don't follow the SOP or, the procedure put in place, you'd be surprised. And that's not just even like in the work sense. I think, and this goes on to like another like take I have, where I think people, no, I wouldn't say inherently, but people are people are good people. Like, people I think are inherently good, like as an average. Like, there's obviously going to be some nasty people who are going to take advantage and like, use the situation. But that's what of course you need to have some controls to a level. But over that, like, if people wanted to like take advantage of situations, they really would. So I think there's a lot of trust, because even in the banking industry, as you're talking about, I'm sure there's a lot of things that like go wrong. And people could easily like, I'm going to just dip my hand in this pot and dip my hand in this pot. And
It's very interesting that you say people are inherently good. I think, because I think we've had this conversation, and in one breath we said people are inherently bad. So it's funny that you sort of
people are inherently selfish.
But I guess you did quantify it with the fact that you said that. Then what it seems to me is like the two sides oppose, like the two sides coexist, where you get probably a smaller minority that are explicitly bad, and a larger majority who are generally good. And it's just because the impact of bad tends to be larger than the impact of good in most instances. So that's small, really. But anyway, let's get back on track. Axelrod. Why Axelrod?
What do you all do?
That I will answer that one. That one I either have told you already or I'll tell you at some point.
Okay.
But what do? We, like I said, our transport management system. I think the bottom line, if you are a company that is outgrowing running your business on Excel sheets or expecting WhatsApp updates or waiting for the trusted person who knows how to generate the report to get into Excel and do it at the end of the month. If you want to be in a position where you have control of your business because you have real-time visibility of your operations and you can track the revenue centers and the cost centers of your operations, we are the system for you. How it works is essentially you instruct the same people that would be sending you those Excel reports to pretty much enter every order that you get in the business into the system. You record the revenue that's coming into that order and the expense that's associated with that order, and also subsequently let the system know which driver and which vehicle was, doing the trip for that order. And once the system has all that, it algorithmically rates your driver's performance. It also puts together finance analytics beyond just, reports. Reports, I think, to be honest, anyone can do. You're just putting a log of everything that's entered in there and maybe aggregating some data, which we do. We've got standard reports that will tell you pretty much everything about your operations. But beyond that, we have separate dashboards for operational analytics and finance analytics, where we get into finance ratios, operational ratios and metrics that, without you having to ask what is the growth rate from month to month, without you asking what's the revenue per driver per vehicle, without you asking what is the highest percentage cost center, you just go to the dashboard and it's telling you all those things right away. Beyond that, we've also got an AI feature as well, whereby we are AI integrated. So you can ask a very reliable AI, a system question, relating to your business, where you say, okay, how many, trips have I done this month? Who is my lowest performing driver? And it will give you quite a significant breakdown on that as well. So yeah, I think for businesses that want to scale, for businesses that want to control, you as a business owner aren't armed with the ability to make decisions on, if we're algorithmically rating your drivers, who's the lowest performer that I think if I lose, then I'll lessen the headaches in my business. The system will do that for you.
They say what you don't, I've just forgotten the exact same, but what you don't measure, you
exactly. You can't control what you don't measure.
Exactly.
So we get into actually measuring what your operations are, and now that gives you the ability to make decisions that give you more control and increase your profitability. Because back down to the revenue centers and cost centers that we capture, you can then decide, okay, I want that particular cost center to be down by 10% for the following month. So please ensure that as we get orders for this, we no longer spend on this. We move on. Yeah.
So it's just it's a decision-making tool.
Exactly.
The question I have for you is like buying. We already kind of had this conversation. The hardest thing about anything or anyone who's it's funny enough you're speaking about, he's got the ability to like pull people together, create congruence. How do you get people to buy into your product? Or what is the plan to eventually get people to buy in? Because when you explain from a technical POV, great, amazing. But to now actually get people's minds to shift and be like, I am willing to. And and I think again, we spoke about this as well. People love comfort. Anything outside the comfort zone per se, or anything different. Once it creates friction, was the word we used. Once there's friction, especially in terms of switching systems, people are like, I don't want to do that, because people love frictionless worlds.
And while you say that, I'm just thinking right now, it's like, because we chatted a little bit about this before, in other conversations, like DSTV as an example. Why is it that Netflix seems to, trump DSTV when DSTV has DSTV now? Like, what is it that Netflix got right that DSTV didn't get right? And some other examples is back in the day before mobile money transfers and whatever, you would have to go to like a ShopRite, transfer the money through ShopRite, then the person on the other end has to walk to the ShopRite. Whereas I know that with mobile money, there's an element of convenience. Like there's a booth right out, because it's booths everywhere. Yeah. There's people doing mobile money everywhere. But the short of the long is, like, what differentiates some of these people? What makes people gravitate towards certain products over other products?
Because especially for me, because I'm I take a lot of time because I'm really into like tech, and I don't think people realize, like, even with Instagram, I watched the podcast MKBHD, and he brought on
and on that, like, why does the Zambian demographic prefer Instagram over Facebook over Instagram?
Yeah, exactly. So that is a good question. But also, like, how much thought people don't actually know, like, when your Instagram app changes, or in Facebook, like with WhatsApp, I'm sure everyone recently saw that thing where they want to bring usernames, and what is actually going on back end, and why they're doing what they're doing. What I'm trying to poke at is the fact that it's what small things, and I'm also like asking the question, what small things, like why Instagram over Facebook? Because there's so many small minute things, but like, yeah. So going back to Axelrod, why Axelrod, and how do you get people to get the buy-in?
That was good prefacing, by the way. So now I have to tell you why I went with the name Axlerod. It's a bit of a play on words, actually. It's just like hinting at, mechanical parts. You have axles in a car, you have, push rods, suspensions, etc. So you just put those together, and it's spelled like that, AXLERODTMS.com. So please go there. In terms of buying,
take a link and add it in the description.
Thank you very much. So in terms of what are we doing to make it frictionless, let's start there. We are right now putting a 6-month free trial, because we know that the idea of changing the way you operate as a business is not something that you want to go in having risked money that will never come back to you. At the same time, we also feel confident in the ability of the product to prove itself over such a long period, which is why we say, get with us. If we change your business, transform your business, give you more visibility into your operations, and help you make better decisions, then we're going to be happy with that, and the relationship continues. And if not, handshake, we didn't take anything from you, we're glad you tried us. That's life. So that's the approach we're taking. We try to make it as frictionless as possible. But when it comes to buying in general, I think the thing that a business person needs to think about is, how big is my problem? how painful is my headache? Because operating the way you're operating is where that headache is coming from. What I'm offering is something that has the potential to eliminate that and actually get you to a place where at a different height. If that's an experience that you're looking forward to, let's do business.
Then, and it's fun now. Speaking of Alex Hormozi, because some people like tell me off that I always
beyond
bring
the
up
blueprint moment. I know what you're about to say. So this is a beyond the blueprint moment for the listeners. Oh, by the way, we have these things that we call beyond the blueprint moments, which essentially is when we think something has been said outside what most people think. The proverbial structure. We highlight that. Go ahead.
So Alex Hormozi likes to say, either if your product is failing, either the problem you're solving is not big enough or important enough, or you just don't have enough visibility that people don't know about your product. And you're alluding to the first one. If people are not buying your thing, the only reason people buy, trying to think, what do people buy? A spatula. It's because they can't flip their eggs.
Exactly.
So the problem is big enough. Like if you're creating something and people are not buying it, it's not. I think sometimes business owners sometimes go to like, why don't people see the value in what I'm doing? It's either you just don't people don't actually know what you have, because sometimes you've got something valuable, but they just don't know what you've got to offer. So that's now a marketing problem, or the problem is just not big enough that it's not worth what you're spending on. So yeah.
The other thing that I was hoping you would say is the sometimes you have to start by doing things for free.
Oh yeah, which I can also go to speak about. Hormozi also says always start for free, and we spoke about this yesterday. Like you trying to get someone to take money out their pocket before there's proof of concept. And I like what you also said is that you want someone to get used to using the system, so that when the time for it's been 6 months, it's now time to pay up, they think of the friction of switching out, because they're now enjoying the benefits of this system, that then they'll be willing to be like, okay, here you go, because I've actually seen what this thing can do for me.
And we see this all the time. Free trial.
Always.
Free trial. Yeah. Sign up for free. And if you enjoy the experience, next thing there's a notification with a deduction in your bank account.
The other funny thing is Barry sent me speaking of free trials, and those things where they like free trial, if you don't cancel in 7 days, we take your money. Yeah. Barry sent me something the other, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was like those people who forget to cancel their subscription and are keeping their operations running. Bruh, that's me, man. The amount of times money's been taken, I'm like, I didn't want to pay for that. I thought about it and said, I'm like, that's such an amazing business model, because I'm sure they make so much money. I'm sure if they could pull out their analytics for people who don't use the service, but it just automatically deducts money, so
it's interesting stuff, and it's painful when it comes out.
It's so painful, because and the annoying thing is, once you see the notification, you can do. There's nothing you can do about it. Like I remember with my Fitbit, the funny story.
Tell us the story, mate.
So that was around. It's now about clock year. It was last year in August. In essay. So okay, a bit more insight. So how FNB works, right? Is you've got a savings pocket in your bank account, and you've got like your current account,
main wallet
your main wallet, right? So if money is in your savings pocket, even if a transaction tries to happen, it kind of like it archives that money, so it won't go through unless money is in your current account. So I usually, for safety's sake, because I love these free subscriptions, I always keep my money in my savings pocket until I need to use it. Like if I go to the shops and I need to spend 200 kwacha, I transfer it over and spend. So basically, my current account is usually at zero. So that's
an accountant talking, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
no unforeseen deductions.
So this one time, we were in Cape Town, and because we're on the move and we didn't have connectivity, before we left the accommodation, I said, let me move the money into my current account in case I want to spend, so I don't have to start stressing with Wi-Fi and blah blah blah. And then I get the notification that, was it like 100 and something? It was like 2,000 kwacha or something, like 100 and something US, which I didn't plan on paying for, but the timing was just right. And I was just like, damn. And it was an annual subscription, by the way. So
and it's not one of those where you cancel and they reverse the funds.
No.
So yeah,
annual is painful.
It was painful.
He's on an annual subscription that he paid for that he didn't want to pay for.
Really want.
We hope you're enjoying the benefits.
Sometimes I don't look at my analytics for 3 days, and I'm like, I force myself, paying for this stuff. I need to look at it.
To check.
Yeah, which is cool, because we're going on a bit of a tangent.
Don't worry.
Recently, it happened with Amazon, where for Prime they took our money. Because the same thing happened, right? But what was very interesting is when I went, so there are some businesses are now doing this very interesting thing where they can prorate how much you've used throughout that monthly subscription and pay you back. So like they took like $15, but because I went and canceled immediately, they actually gave me the full 15 back.
Nice.
But there are most other like subscriptions, once it's gone.
So I've actually got one with Prime at the moment where I was ordering some stuff online, and to get the benefit of like the free shipping, it forced me to get Prime. So I subscribed, but what I did was I put a calendar notification on my phone, and just the day before that subscription comes to an end, but like, yeah, man, you need to survive. It is what it is. So very interesting stuff that you're doing in the space. Maybe let's move away from the very nice polished Axelrod project manager, charismatic guy. Let's
what a hot take.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to chat about. Let's chat about some hot takes. What hot takes do you currently have?
I have 3.
Okay.
We will go in whichever order.
Yeah.
The first is the one that spoke to you a lot, is that I think women's tennis, Grand Slam finals should be 5 sets.
Okay.
Yes, that's the first one. The second is, if I'm hiring, I don't think I can hire you if you don't watch or play sports actively.
It was me about to retaliate for getting it's a hot take. I was already like about to like, no, that's why it's a hot take. Okay, calm down. Yeah, next one.
And the third is that, why am I forgetting my third one? Barry knows it.
Do you have it?
Yes, I do. No, yes, exactly. I just don't think therapy is for everyone. I think it's also a bit overblown as a concept.
So which one do you guys want to start with?
I think the therapy one is a long one. Yeah. So let's unpack the sports one.
Yes.
The hiring one.
The hiring one and the sports one. So explain that. What do you mean?
I think sports is a good, you don't want polished answers, but
of course.
Sports is a good allegory for life, I think. Okay. When you're playing a game of whichever sort, and that's the other thing. It forces you to think of like what it takes to come through in certain moments. If it's a solo sport, it forces you to understand the discipline that it takes to get yourself over the line. I'm actually also, another thing that I'm irritated about is that they are now allowing coaching in tennis. That was never the case before. So essentially, if you and I were playing tennis, it was Barry versus Klein. Even if my coach is in the stands, my coach will not tell me anything and yours won't either. So you have to figure me out. I have to figure you out. And then we get over the line. I think there's a certain pure form of competition in there that's kind of died with the whole, try to give him more backhands. Anyway, so, I just do feel like the idea of competition, the idea of consistency, the idea of building a habit where you're constantly showing up, team dynamics, leadership, all that is there in sports, and it's in a way shorter time than actual life, except once you embed those principles in yourself and you try to live by them, there is a certain type of person that you make yourself become. So now I can't bring you in if when things are intense, you don't understand that there's an intense response that's supposed to come out of you to rise to the occasion.
I agree. On a scale of 5, I'm like at a strong 3.5 or 4.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't know. Do you want to go first?
I was going to say, I don't know if you've watched that movie. I think it's White Men Can't Jump. It's not me. That's the name of the movie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. And the guy says, under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training, which I guess is essentially what you're saying. Like, I mean, if you've been playing a sport and trying to sharpen a skill, you, under pressure, will be like, look, we've done this before. This is what happens in this moment. And we're talking about transferable skills, which is essentially if you play a sport, which I think is what Timoni was about to say, some of those skills are transferable. Like you said, guys, the game is intense. We're 3 goals down. What's the plan? Yeah. What's the strategy? There's only this much time. I think people who are not presented with those situations probably. But then the thing that I'm thinking about is maybe life does present those things to you in different situations. Like maybe raising a kid shows you the criticality of having to always be switched on, because kids, like, you look away for 2 minutes and he's got his head stuck in the toilet or something like that.
Yes.
Like, what I'm trying to say is that parent might not be an active sports person who might need to think, I need to, be vigilant on the field, but they'll know that, look, with a child, I need to stay switched on.
Yeah.
So I mean, are you giving grace to the people that might not be doing sport?
Listen, I think if we're still speaking in terms of hiring someone, there will be times when you get a bit of a feel for a person that, it makes you circumnavigate the row a little bit. But I do feel like the idea of in business, it's competition, it's intense. We're trying to get a result. There's people we're trying to outdo. You don't really put those principles in your head if there isn't something that is constantly screaming competition, success, against other high performing people. If you don't watch sports, it's just not easy for me to find. Yeah. And I know, people listening to this will throw the obvious examples immediately, which by all means, those are all true. But I think you as a person need to have a frame of analysis for most things. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if that's the one I choose, at least I have the thing where it's like, I know what type of person I'm getting to work with because I've analyzed them from this sort of, angle.
And speaking of, and adding on to what you're saying, I haven't properly broken this down in my head, but also, again, I'm adding on to the hot take. These are all hot takes, so please don't shoot me, guys. But there's also this thing of inclusivity in the work environment or generally in society. No, you don't, work out. It's fine. We include you. You don't. I'm trying to think of different things we've gotten very soft as a society. But some things I like this one about sport. Let's say, and I think I've seen it even in the UK. I've seen headlines sometimes where they're saying kids below the age of 16 in high school need to maybe register a certain number of hours in a week of exercise.
I think I saw that in Japan or China.
But it was.
Where they encourage them to run a certain number of Ks because it adds up to your bonus or something like that.
Yeah, because you're saying the obvious answers people throw back at about no. What about people who do chess or it's so competitive, but those throw all those spanners in the workshop, but inclusivity, and it just reminds me that sometimes I feel like this society has gotten soft,
Yeah, I mean it's
adding on to the hot take, by the way.
Yes, it's an easy place to land, and I don't think you're wrong. It's always very easy to get to a place where you come off the wrong way when you're talking about society getting soft. But I do think there's an element of challenge that we seem to be washing down. So when life is supposed to be challenging, people are supposed to challenge you. You just have to understand that.
Yeah, it's sorry, before I forget, it's that thing they do where they give every kid underneath yes. and everyone gets even these marathons.
Exactly.
I ran a marathon and I didn't win and I got a medal, so I can talk. But does everyone deserve a medal?
I mean, for some reason when you were talking, I was imagining if the finish line is here, it looks like Barry is not going to make it. So let's just bring the finish line here. Exactly. And he makes it. That's what it feels like happens a lot of the time. Yeah. In being inclusive, I think we define less what a standard is. So then you don't get to a place where it's okay, we expect people to be able to perform to this level for them to exist in this environment. Yep. What we then switch out from is okay, because we don't want to make it feel like you not meeting the standard means you're excluded, let's water that down so that we include people. It's I don't know, some would consider it an unfortunate way of thinking, and I don't necessarily make presumptions about people, but I just think if what we're doing is something measurable, let the standard be the standard.
Heike,
I want to play devil's advocate.
Because before you play devil's advocate, I always I like this thing of I've found out myself a lot of the times when we do these sort of which option is better, A or B, I'm very likes going here. Let's say you get kids and put them in one room and kids in another room, or you choose different groups of people. And these people, the framework is competition.
And by the way, just to add to what you're saying, part of the reason why I like using kids is because they're not tainted with whatever, because we're a product of our upbringing. So a kid is very raw at that point. They're just a human being with their what some might consider their animalistic tendencies. That's why a kid would jump on a table without pants on and just do their thing. You as an adult wouldn't do it. If you did it, we might have security taking you out of the room. Short of the logos. That's why I like using kids as an example.
If you got these one group of people and you said you are going to work with a framework where it's all about competition. It's about like, these are the standards, you need to achieve this to get this. And then you left them for like a couple of years, and you got other people where, like, as you said, like, everyone gets a medal, and like, even if you don't come first,
you
it's
get a
okay.
car. You get a car. You get a car.
If you give them like a couple of years and you go and review their performance, I'm pretty sure the group where the competition was like go will have been more productive, or the outcome the output would have been higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm struggling to play devil's advocate because I think like you guys. Maybe the question I have is, why are people soft? Why has the world become soft?
I think humans overcorrect every time. So there was an element of toxicity to how we expected people to meet the standard, how we said, it's performance or death. That's kind of the message we were sending. So now, for the people that could get by, we made them feel like, again, you don't deserve to live. So now, because we saw, okay, you know what, that's a bit wrong. You can't walk into the office, and if it's like a sort of sales department, I did $1 million, you did 13,000. Just why are you even coming to work? Actually, exactly. So now we made that an attitude where now people get to feel less about themselves because they don't meet the absolute heights that the best meet. So now, to fix that, we say, okay, fine. Try to be a bit understanding. That 13,000 is also revenue for the company. So can you please not make this about your 1 million? Great, you got it, but whatever he's bringing, it's valuable. So it should be felt that way. And that is the concept that I think we can all share, just on a level of like being empathetic, even if I don't consider myself to be the highest empath, but it's something I can understand, except if now the person who was on 1 million says, well, if it's okay for 13,000 to be done, then I'm also on 13,000. Then we've just watered everything down. So that's where I think that came from. There's as society, we just said, let's be nicer to people, but then we went all the way there.
I've got a bit of a different angle. Yeah. I also think what's contributed to this is people who basically leaders have gotten soft, or people want to get into leadership have gotten soft. Think about it like this. We're in a department, right? And we know that towards the end of the year, in a couple of months, they're looking for a new manager, and we're all potential candidates. The easiest way to get everyone's support is to include everyone. Mm-hmm. So if I stand up and be like, I want performance, only the best 3, what? People, so even like even in politics, like for you to get up, you need to include everyone, because those are the people that are going to be voting for you. I'm not trying to mix up politics, but no.
You haven't said where these politics are happening. It could be on Mars.
Exactly. But the point is, it's also, leadership has also gotten soft, because if the people that set the standards uphold, those, those guidelines, then we wouldn't expect the softness, but because of numbers game. It's a numbers game.
So, playing devil's advocate, I was listening to a podcast in which they were talking about, you don't fully appreciate a situation until you're in the situation, right? And empathy is an attempt to put yourself in that person's shoes and say, how is that person potentially feeling? Let me try and put my feet in their shoes. So what I'm trying to say is, it's a little bit like and thought they were using was like parents, like when you've got a toxic parent, or like parents who are divorced and not together and whatever. Like if your parents are together, it would be very difficult for you to understand a person who's grown up in a broken home, right? And you might think, because for you, the structure has been there and you're a strong candidate, 2 legs, 2 arms, a good head on your shoulders. It's like, why the hell? Like, come on, the bar should be here. But then trying to consider, and this is that inclusivity that we're talking about, that person who, because you guys probably know this, there's those guys who we went with at school who would study from 6 to 6, but the guy would get 50.
Yeah.
Like it has to take him to study from 6 to 6 to get a 50%. Yeah. And then there's you mucking around, playing around, and you even get a 70, and you're like, I know that if I studied from 6 to 6, bruh, like this is child's play, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, how then do we accommodate the guys that need to study 6 to 6? Because there's also an effort component here. People are actively trying.
Except the question is, if you were going into surgery and they told you the results of those 2 people throughout the time in medical school, how inclusive would you be for the person who was getting 47?
100.
Fair. Wow. You make a fair point. But that's why I guess life is a tiered thing. Like life can't be this thing where you draw one line in the sand and it's either you're on that end or not on this end.
No, and that's why I said, like, well, when, for two things that we mentioned earlier, on the sports thing, I know that there'll be a time where I have to make a decision that isn't based on that only. And with the standard, for that, it's a bit more difficult to get me to deviate because I do want a minimum level that works. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's like, as long as we're not going below this, it works.
Yeah.
But if, perchance, someone can convince me that, there's value beyond the standard that I get by having this person in here, then okay, fine. Maybe it's considerable. But if you're objective, it's very difficult to get to a place where you're saying, oh, okay, you can't do it, but let's make you feel nice.
Because that was my thing about the 1 million and the 13,000. Because that guy who gets 1 million, maybe he's a hard businessman. He walks into rooms and he backs people into corners, and people sometimes maybe sign things and not necessarily have the best client experience. But the guy who gets 13,000, his clients are happy. They're like, look, we go with this guy because we enjoy the client experience. He's a human being. He makes us feel so. While there's the measurable metric of the million and the 13 million, there's the quote unquote sometimes unmeasurable metric, which is the client experience.
You just actually answered the question. Then you're measuring the wrong thing because you can measure client experience. So why sometimes it looks like, because first things first, I think a line in the sand is good. You're on this side, you didn't do well enough. You're on this other end, well done. It's like some educational courses. The pass mark is the same for everyone. And I think that's the best system. What that now means is, what standards are you setting? Because based on what you want to achieve, your standards need to align with that. As you're saying, if happiness of client is the important thing, then let happiness of client be the measure. If it's money, it should be money. Because, it just means that whatever you're measuring, it should be what drives what your outcome is. Because we need to sit at the table first, as an example, right? As society, and say, what are we trying to achieve? That's first thing, before we start measuring. What are we trying to achieve? And then you choose what to measure. That then is a marker as to the performance of that.
To Barry's point, and also the reason why I said, if you can offer me value elsewhere, then I'll consider it. There's very few goals that, when achieved, are only measured by one thing. So you will tell yourself as Barry that I want to be successful, but that's not just the money in your account. Maybe it's also, the health of your family. Maybe it's also a lot of other things. You get what I mean? So if your strategic overall target is something that can be measured by like multiple metrics, the standard might focus on the 1 million. But then, like you said, you did when you were making the devil's advocate thing, customer retention is another thing. And if that's something that is part of that
overall strategy.
Yes, that overall strategy or target, the strategic goal, then fine. Like you lean to say, okay, this person doesn't give us so much in this area, but they give us more in this area. And we take it there.
Yeah. Because funny enough, Barry and I have studies, and what I was thinking in my head is like, let's say today they switched it up and said, what determines your success at work is how many kilometers you run in a week, or in a month. You're gonna start running. You always, and that goes back to even another component that we've spoken about. Like, it's not like you just need to shift. Some obviously unrealistic. If it's how many children you birth in a year, unfortunately, guys,
it's one on average.
And I mean, guys, you know what I mean. But if it's inclusive of everyone, you will always shift. If it became all your success is tied to, I don't know, like how many lines of words you could write. My point is, if you're a person who's driven to achieve something, you should be able to shift. You will shift, because the way I know you will shift. Am I lying or am I not?
I'm playing devil's advocate. So you need to understand the fact that I agree with you guys for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted, and you were very clear, you said hire someone. So you're talking about in a professional sense.
Yes.
A lot of what we're talking about sounds like the capitalist world. Yes. The question I want to ask is, because we're now saying society, because society is not just capitalism.
Yes.
Society is existing with people.
Yes.
Are we also taking into account, because I'm just wondering, like, for you guys from a social perspective, like, imagine dating a woman and you got money, but you're a horrible communicator, you're not considerate, Like, fine, from a societal perspective, most of the time, people view you as successful depending on how much money you have, right? And then these other things come after. The short of the long is what I'm trying to ask is, in a school setting, I sort of understand why the pass mark is 50 or 30 or 80 or whatever it is, right? Yep. From a work perspective, these are your deliverables, this is your KPI. But from a societal perspective, you like talking about strategy and da-da-da-da. I don't think you can have one measure. True. So when we say like society has become soft, even from a societal perspective, one of them being things like talking about masculinity, like, oh, men should also now contribute to the household and whatever. I'm not trying to make this about that, but like the point is, the measure isn't just you are a provider, check, you are successful. Yeah. It's now become you are a provider, but are you a communicator? Are you a present father? Are you? So, like, if we just measured you on provision, there's guys who might not be the biggest providers, but their kids love them and their wife loves them and there are women who are like madly in love with her husband and he doesn't even drive the most expensive car. So, I mean, I'm also trying to attack the societal side of things.
The overall metric.
Because those people who exist in that society with families and socialization and are the same people that are in the workplace.
The overall metric here we should all be trying to achieve and achieve. I think it's happiness. I always land there. It's happiness.
I knew you were going to say that.
High key.
Okay.
Yeah. And whatever you do.
It looks to me like you don't agree.
Happiness.
I mean, if you don't agree, let's say it.
We all want it, yeah? But it's like happy for what or about what? You know what I mean? It's
for what?
Yeah.
Happy for what? Or about what?
Happy for what?
I think any emotion like that it's fleeting. You'll be happy sometimes, you'll be angry sometimes. You will, be sad sometimes. It's the whole range of emotions. I don't know if you can flatline on happiness and then consider yourself successful. And I don't even think it's possible to flatline on happiness. So I don't understand why that would be the goal. I think you have to me anyway, you have to decide what matters to you. You have to decide what you value. You have to decide what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. Then when you've got those things, go for them. And I know, the happiness side of things is sort of like, white picket fence. We've got a family.
Not necessarily, because then after you achieve those things that you want to achieve, what are you trying to be pissed off afterwards? Like,
no, but that's exactly what I was saying. I was saying like when you get to that level, you will sort of say, look, I've got nothing to be quote unquote sad about, at least on the grand scheme. Like everything that needs to be working is working. It's kind of how I answered the question you asked me how I was doing. Everything that needs to be working is working.
But I don't to complain about,
but I don't necessarily sit down and think because everything that needs to be working is working, my life stays where it is because in this state I am happy.
No, 100. And you keep chasing so that you can be happy. And if you do that until the day you kick the bucket. But like my point is, what are you chasing?
I don't.
The question I have is, have you ever been in a situation where you really wanted something, but you were just failing at it? You probably haven't because...
No, I'm not sure. I know the vibe I'm giving off, but there's probably
No. And I say that not in a cocky way. I say that in a... what I'm trying to say is there's probably things you've tried like, oh, let me play a bit of golf and that didn't work. And you're like, but that's not life defining, right? Life defining things would be like school, would be like a job, trying to actually start a business. And what I'm trying to bring out to you is the people who are, this is why I use the example of the 6 to 6 guy who studies.
Yes.
But he gets that 50%. He is genuinely trying. And some people say, no, but maybe there's some tact that he's not using. Guys, sometimes people's mental capacity is just the fact that they need to study way more hours. And imagine how that guy feels when the benchmark is 50 and every single time with all that effort, he always just comes in 51, 52, 53. He starts to feel like, and using that sales example that you were giving, like I've managed to get 13,000 sales against the guy who just got 1 million. I'm genuinely trying. I'm knocking on the doors. I'm chatting to the people. Sometimes I'm even asking that guy, what are you doing? What are your tricks? Let me try and mirror that on my end, but it's just not happening. So how do we accommodate those people?
I think, so first of all, there is an elite.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, it's fine.
We're unpacking a hot take.
Yeah. Which also there were 2 others. But so,
we'll get to this.
So the reason elite exists is because it can't be achieved by everyone. We need to understand that. we can't all be great at something. That's not possible. So there's the ones who will be really good at it. Then there's the ones who will be like, we don't even know if a human being can do that, but he's doing it. There's tiers, you know what I mean? Percentiles. They're there. So we just have to accept that as a sort of fact of life that happens. And then the next thing is, regardless of the fact that that does exist for any field that you get into, I think as a human being also, there are different sort of like sliders where in this I reach a 60, in this I reach a 70, in this I reach a 90. You get what I mean? So whatever those things are, if you don't want to feel like you're at the bottom rung of anything, don't operate in spaces where you're at 20.
But that's where you've got the choice, because that's why I gave the example of golf, because golf is not life defining. But things that might be life defining is a business, is education.
Yes.
And we could even use it in a social sense. Let's say, no, I don't want to use that example. That's a bad example. Okay. I was going to use an example. Like we can talk about it. But like the short of the long is, you can't say don't operate in education because you're not good at it. It's like,
why not,
brother? Like, I'm trying. It's just...
why can't I say don't...
And now this is the other thing I wanted to touch on.
Where do you want those people to be?
Then that's what I want to touch on.
Where do you want those people to be?
Hold on. This is another thing. We need to be, I'll use the word realistic.
Yes.
It's very easy. And I think Bear and I, funny enough, after we broke off last night, when Bear and I went home, we kind of had a bit of this conversation and we said...
we continued bashing your guys' process. I say, what the hell do these guys think? But don't know anything.
And to some extent, like, it's... Let's come down to earth for a second, guys.
Okay.
Feet on the ground.
It's very easy to like... analyze these things. It's always, I always like to compare it to like, I imagine at group.
I just want to say, I'm not making excuses for everyone.
Of course.
I'm not saying being lazy is okay for people to not, I'm talking about the guys who are genuinely trying. Because, I'm sorry, I know you were on a track. It's like, even with the running thing, some like, for me, who was a relatively good runner then, like, I would, like, even like for you just now, you did 10K in 48, right? There's probably a guy who's been trying to get to 10Ks under an hour. And it's just like, I just seem to do it. Like, I'm changing my diet. I'm getting the best running shoes. I'm reading, I'm watching, but my body has just reached a physical plateau. Then what?
They are your sliders. You're 60 when it comes to running. You're 60 when it comes to running.
But this is what I'm saying. Running is not life-defining.
Yeah.
In the life-defining spaces, what do I do?
I don't want to ever tell a person that there's a ceiling for their life. So I think...
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yes, you're doing a good job. I think the reason I gave the sliders example is... even if I'm not going to be here sort of saying like, oh, change your career right now, you also don't know what you could achieve if you operated in an area where it's like things come more naturally to you. You understand what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. It's not necessarily like, oh, okay, you be damned if your 20s on everything. Okay. And to a degree, that's the probability. If you find yourself on 20s on everything, even if Klein, like, really, I want the best for you. I do. But, probability says it's not coming. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So I think that he said we need to be realistic. We do have to be realistic. The same way you can't have everyone elite, whether it's the middle class or the people that are doing generally okay is never going to be everyone. I think we mentioned this last night where I was saying, for any large enough sample, extreme ends will exist. Yeah. So there will be the people that are at the very top, and there will be people that are at the very bottom. Even if I gave anything practical, that would be like, oh, try this so that whatever. Yeah, like I said, try to operate in spaces where things come more naturally to you, or your slider is more naturally on 90. Great. If you do that and works, great. But nothing's a guarantee. True. And there will be somehow, despite what Klein is saying, the other end of the extreme where, there's elite and bottom rung.
I agree with you. And even with, like, that's why I always like to say, like, animals are hierarchical by nature. There's always going to be people at the top. There's always going to be people at the bottom. It's like, even with apes and lions and whatever, you always see this. You got your alpha male and it comes down. And obviously, in that case, the metrics are who's got the bigger mane and who's got the bigger muscles, and they're the alpha male, and so all I'm just trying to say is, like, you can't have, no matter how much, even if we and I'm sure this is a whole other conversation. What's that they call it? Universal basic income. You give everyone 5,000 kwacha every month. Some people will blow it all on drugs, and then others will, invest it, and others will save, and then it'll all just shift back to where it was. So
it's a bell curve.
I mean, I like that ending, which is essentially the life is hierarchical, and even in the animal kingdom, it is hierarchical. But then to just finish off where we started with all of this has the world really become soft? Like, for the most part, I agree with you. I do think the world has become soft. Nobody ever wants to be told the truth anymore, and we're about to jump into your therapy thing, because then everybody's going to be like, oh no, you probably need to go to therapy and fix yourself because you have...
I'm already a candidate from everything so far.
You don't know how to open your mouth and say things.
Yeah.
Anyway, I agree with you guys. I was playing devil's advocate. Short of the long is, I do think the world has become soft. I wonder what the listeners think. Yeah. You guys can let us know in the comments. Maybe we didn't unpack it the way it should have been unpacked. But let's segue. Therapy isn't for everybody.
Yes.
Unpack. What's that about?
I'll try not to spend too much time on this because I know the world is in love with therapy.
Yeah, right, love it.
Yeah.
I just think it's the approach I take, and I'm very open right now. Clearly, I have thoughts that it's very difficult to get my mind away from, or at least ways of thinking that it's difficult to get my mind away from. So because I sort of think like that, I find the idea that I'm going to someone to let them know what I'm struggling with, and then they sort of either tell me or explore with me to the point where we land on a solution. I feel like it's asking them to reconfigure my brain, but my brain is mine.
Yeah.
So if I know that there's something I'm dealing with it, like dealing with, sit down and deal with it. Like, just think.
Just think.
You've got a brain,
Yeah, exactly. And
that'll be the headline of this podcast. Just think.
Yeah.
Just think. Use your brain.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I said, it's not for everybody, because I do know there's things that people can diagnose. There's things that sometimes you genuinely can't help yourself with. But I do feel like we've gotten to, again, the same overcorrecting thing where we say for you to be some type of complete human adult being, you must have gone to someone that tells you, you've got issues.
Yeah.
Can we start saying, I don't know, I feel statements, and then the more you do that, the more rounded you become as a person. I don't know.
Okay. I'm not going to try to segue too much.
Yes.
But I think a deeper question we need to answer.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer, but I'll bring it up anyway. So at least it's insightful for the people.
Yeah.
With a lot of these topics we've discussed, I think, because even as you were speaking, the natural answer is always to go back to but some people can't do it for themselves. Like even with the same thing you said with with performing to a high level.
Yes.
It's but some people are struggling with things.
Yes.
And then obviously you're more on the you need to take ownership and responsibility of your own life, and if you choose to get it done, it will be done. And if you put your all in and you put your effort in, it will be done. But then, so my thing is internal and external factors.
Yeah.
Nurture
Locus
versus
of control, yes.
Yes. How much can we attribute to? Because with the therapy one, what I'm talking about is there's some people, and you probably start disagreeing with me, but there's some people who just can't process their thoughts. And I'm sure for you that sounds silly. What do you mean? Because even I just think about things myself and I figure it out for myself. I just think. So how much is attributed to from external factors, and how much is internal?
No, I mean, like I said, it's genuine. The phrasing I chose to use is it's not for everybody. That means there's some people it's for.
There's a group of
yes,
people.
there's some people it's for, and by all means, if there is a very honest, genuine side of experiencing a mental health issue. Okay? So if you have those, seek the type of professional attention that will get you over the line. I just think I don't know if I'm not on social media as much as either of you, but I think you do get the sense when you see the things that float around about how we've all suddenly become sort of mini therapists where it's like you express something, oh, he was triggered. You express something, oh, that's a sign of trauma. You express something, you need to heal, etc., etc. And I think there is a variation of personalities that people can be. And sometimes Barry can just be the type of person that laughs at anything. It's not because, oh, when he was young, it was a coping mechanism to get away from the fact that he just laughs. Okay, cool. Barry laughs, but like he's a functioning human being. True. And I think there are degrees to it is what I'm saying. And when you start feeling like you are either incomplete or a quirk about you is something that needs correcting for you to act in whatever the line is, because that's how it translates to me a lot of the time. That's not right. I don't think that's right. I think you can, number one, for the things that you struggle with, use your own head and figure them out for a good number of people.
That's funny every time.
Yeah. And for the ones that are just like, you know, clearly I'm also coming off some type of way I can feel it right now. But I'm still like a functioning Klein. You get what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I'm with you 100%. So the one that I find interesting, and I've been thinking about it quite a bit recently, is like life coaches. Like, okay, so I go to a guy who's living his life for the first time to tell me how to live my life correctly. Like, it's a very weird concept. Like, I think if you were to be a life coach, I think it makes sense. Like, if you had lived like 5 lives and you're like, oh, I've seen this scenario play out 5 times. So based off what you're doing, this is what I think you should do. Right. But then if you're living it for the first time as well, it's like, just figuring it out like me. Like the thing that I find, and I struggle to articulate my thought, and I'm going to try in this instance, is human beings are complex. And I have no other word to describe that. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on the phone recently, and I was telling her, like, I could joke about something, but depending on when it's said, how it's said, where it's said, and a lot of other things that are existing on your end, it could land a certain type of way. Whereas on any other day, I could say the exact same thing, and it's a joke, we laugh about it and move on, right? And this thing, like, which is essentially what you're trying to say, is like the overcorrection or the skating the line. What is even the line? Like, where is the line? You know? Because like you said, some people just laugh. Like, is it always, and this is it, we said, like, I sort of touched on this in the previous episode with Natasha, where I'd said, does everything that a human being does it have to be linked to, I bumped my head when I was 5? Mm-mm. Like, can it just not be, I don't know, like when God was mixing the product, he just put more laughter. Like that's it. There isn't anything else to talk about around the reason you laugh. Because I don't know, like I don't get it. I don't think human beings function like a machine, you know? Like with a machine, you plug in a diagnostic thing and it's like, oh, the hydraulics is because of the cable, like, and then you know, like, oh, if we route it like this, it would do this. If we route it like that, it does that. Human beings don't work like that. So, but I get you also when you say like with therapy, it's for some people, because one of the things that I've picked up with therapy is I think some people, you probably are very good at having the man in the mirror moments where you can, even when you're doing something wrong, something that's negatively impacting your life, you're very good at looking at it in the mirror and saying, this thing is negatively impacting my life. I know I'm still doing it. I'm struggling to stop doing it, but it is what it is, right? Or me just talking out of turn is negatively impacting my relationships. I'm aware of it, but this is what it is. Versus, I think some people struggle, and Natasha said that, people sometimes lie to themselves for so long that the lie becomes the reality in their mind. And they somewhat need a third person or a second person to point out, this is a reality, and I think you're lying to yourself. And force it out of you, because some people, unfortunately, maybe that's where their brain like ends. It ends at, I've lied to myself for so long that this is what I think it is. So anyway, I won't lie. Like it's a very tricky,
it's a nuanced subject.
It's a very tricky topic. What I just wanted to finish off with is, like AI becoming a big thing, and everybody's talking about AI, and like electric vehicles, and everybody's talking about electric vehicles. How is it that therapy could be immune to that possibility, that it's just a trend? And I'm not saying that people who have mental health issues are just having mental health issues because like, oh, it's cool to be depressed. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, are we magnifying a situation or blowing a situation out of proportion like any other thing that we can do? That's really it.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and it's kind of leaning towards the same overcorrecting thing that I said. I think we recognize things about ourselves as humanity, and then we say we need to put a stop to that, or we need to fix that, and we never fix in sort of like marginal terms where we say, can we do this a bit, see the result? Can we do this a bit more, see the result? You know, in units, we say, oh, if this is never going to happen again, the way forward is a stringent set of measures. These stringent set of measures include
boom, boom, boom.
You line them up.
Yeah.
And once you line them up and say, as long as these 64 things are met, we will never experience ABCD again.
Yeah.
And then in doing that, you find I don't know how much research goes into it. And, you know, I'm speaking, I don't know, very scientific terms for no reason. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is you will put in those 64 things, but sometimes they haven't been researched long enough for you to know what are the long-term effects or what are the unintended consequences. You did that 64 30-day trial, 64 thing to 30-day trial, and saw that, oh, okay, in 30 days, these 64 things reduced the incidences of X. So going forward, that's the way we're correcting, and we take it from there. And then 3 years down the line, you know, there's an unintended consequence.
Yeah,
I think it's the equal and opposite rule. You know, like with everything you do, like, and it goes back to like if you cut all the trees today, there's going to be a good and a bad, right? So if everyone smiles at each other, there's going to be a good and a bad. And if everyone doesn't smile at each other, there's going to be a good and a bad. And if everyone talks to each other softly, I think the short of the long is we just need to understand that the good and the bad will exist.
That's why even like my rule for governance is like whichever option benefits the most people. If you've got 3 options and one is 20%, one is 30%, and the other was 50, go for the 50.
That's why it's a 50 plus 1.
Not everyone can win.
It's a 50 plus 1. It will be the majority want this.
Yeah.
And that's who we have to satisfy in this instance.
As you said, there's always going to be someone on the other end
who feels like, you know, some people are too loud and the rooms are too quiet, and it just is what it is.
But I got a question for Klein. We're moving away from that a bit.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're privileged?
No.
Okay, explain. Why? I guess why not? What is privilege to you, firstly? Because even I don't really know.
I think I might be advantaged in comparison to some people, but that's just because, and even then, like, it's
marginal.
Exactly. But that's, I don't know if that constitutes privilege necessarily, because like I said, statistically speaking, there will be tops, bottoms, middles, right? So, you know, let's assume I found myself in the middle. I don't think I started there, but that's where you find yourself. I don't know if then I can say, oh, I'm privileged in comparison to someone else. I think the statistics will always be that there is, you know, extremes. Outside that, I don't consider anything I have ever done to be a result of, you know what, you had the upper hand going into this, so that's why. I don't think so. I think I made an effort. I did what it took to get the thing done. The thing got done.
I think I low-key agree with you, because you know the problem is once you start throwing privilege into the whole equation, people start finding things to make excuses of.
Which brings us back to that Zambians like the reason thing. You know, the reason, I say Zambians, but people like the reason. Yeah. The reason why he drives that car is because he's got a job at that place. Yeah. Or the reason why he drives that car is his dad is ex-person.
Because immediately you start accommodating privilege, and I started off on top of who and like it always just like people look for an excuse.
I just wanted to define privilege. Okay. Google. Privilege refers to a special right, advantage, or immunity granted to a particular person, group, or class, depending on the context. It's broadly splits into 2 main categories: social advantages and legal protections.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Again, if we're speaking in relative terms based on that definition, it would be difficult to argue against being quote unquote privileged versus some people. But like I said, because I am the root cause of my achievements, I don't look at them as something that came to me because of any advantage I have. I made an effort, I got a result. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I know what's funny about this whole thing. I think the needle moves for me. Because there's times Bear and I have been like, dude, we were lucky, like, because we got like this because of this, or our parents because of this. Then there's other times where like, it was just the work we put in, and as you said, the steps we put in place to get the outcome. Like sometimes, because again, you also, like, not F that, man. I worked hard. Like, like,
we recently had this conversation. I think it's very difficult, but in my mind, sometimes the way I visualize it is, I think, have you seen that funny meme actually, where there's a wall and then there's like a foot, there's
equality or equity, whatnot.
Then there's like a guy standing on the books, and then he can see over
and
the
fence. The guy standing on the money,
and
there's the guy who can't even see.
I think about it like that. So there's always going to be an effort component, right? Because there's going to be, in some instances, an effort component, and some instances where it's pure privilege. Pure privilege, I think, could be like if you're born as the kid in the royal family, it goes without saying. Like, you already have, there's a silver, that's why they say the silver spoon in your mouth, right? But to maybe meet a certain person who opens a certain door, there's the effort of actively trying to meet that person. I guess the differentiator will be, like, again, using like the pedestals or the standing, your ability to maybe speak a certain language which allows you to resonate with a person easier is different from a person who has to learn the language first and then try and get to the person. I guess in this context, specifically using that example, that difference is the privilege. Like, your privilege, you have that advantage of the fact that you speak Spanish, that's why, versus I didn't speak Spanish, I had learned Spanish and then. And whether you go far, how far you go is then is a completely separate conversation. I just want us to acknowledge the fact that those two pedestals at the bottom exist.
It goes back like the book Fabian gave us. He gifted us a book. It's called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. Right? And in one of the chapters, the guy says, life is hard for everyone. It's just harder for others than it is for
some.
Exactly. So, if, as we like say, difficult or hardship is a fixed cost of life. Everyone, in some sense, faces hardship. And I recently did a thing on Instagram, and I was like,
people who don't believe that.
There are people who, because
they genuinely feel like,
oh, my Bugatti. I said, like, my Bugatti went to service, so today I need to use my Lambo. That's some sense, as ridiculous as it sounds. The guy is there saying like, oh my God, this Lambo. I miss my Bugatti. And then obviously there's some people like, I've only got 2 eggs and a tomato, and that's my food for the whole day. And that's someone's hardship. But the sense of hardship, it exists for everyone. And everyone has to overcome some sort, especially if you're leveling up, you need to overcome some certain constraints or difficulty in order to level up. You don't just say, hey, today I want to be general manager. Okay. Then you give, no, there's steps to doing that, and there's effort. As you said, if it means you getting up from your bed to walk over to, there's some effort needed.
Yeah. Agreed. Couldn't unpack that one any better.
Let's close off with something a little bit more less tense, maybe.
Let's hear it.
If your life were a movie, what would the people who have been watching this life from the beginning be shouting at the screen right now? Klein, do this. Klein, don't do this. Klein, go here. Klein, go there.
I think they'd just be shouting, push harder. I think it'd be a funny movie. But I do think it'd be a funny movie. But I think they'd just be shouting, push harder. I think, I think it's waste to go through life not seeing what the potential energy within yourself can, turn into reality. You know what I mean? So I'm always, anytime you feel like you're wasting time, you're sort of like guilty, just like, this could be effort towards this could be effort towards that. And I think that's what they'd be shouting. They'd be saying, listen, the things you've shown so far, you could probably actually reach here. You're just not seeing that it's actually possible. You just need to spend the extra 45 minutes. You just need to push harder. So I think that's the thing that they'd shout. If I do listen to them eventually, I'll be happy to be here again saying I listen. But if not, we go back to where we started on how you're doing, and the things that are important are in a good place. I'm a happy man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of that little concept of just using that little extra to do something, going back to the book that Fabian gifted us, we've been gifted a couple of books. Some even just books. Like I'm always like telling myself I need to read. I'm gonna get this book off someone, and I rarely ever get to it. And this time I was like, you know what? Sometimes before I go to bed, it's already late, and I'm like, 10 minutes moves the needle. It sounds ridiculous, but like, and I'm almost there. Like, I think I've got a chapter left, but using that, like, just sometimes putting in that little extra, because it's usually, 10 minutes is not enough. Let me sleep. Why not the other way around? And I've really been using that energy to get like making progress in, for example, the book, and obviously trying to spill that thing over into my other areas of my life. You know, sometimes I'm like, I've only got like 25 minutes for a workout. Because that's a bit short, but as reference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just go put something in. Yeah. Put something.
Yeah. Actually, probably got a slightly more interesting ending. I'm sorry. Which is going to be, what's your go-to story? So this one is that if we were sitting at the table here, no camera, no mics, different drinks in hand.
Or for us, because
maybe for you guys. I apparently I get medals for the fact that I don't drink. What's your go-to story? So like I've got one about an experience with a croc, which we can talk about after this.
Yeah.
What's your interest? The one that gets the people going, like, yo, really?
Wow. I'll tell you how I tore my ACL. It's not athletic. You leaned towards the fact that it might be athletic. It's not.
I wouldn't hire you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's a funny story. It's very short, but I was basically moving houses, and I had told the new landlord that I'd be moving, and then there was also, a social life that was vested in the fact that I was, moving house. So it's like, okay, we know we can do like a housewarming at Klein's tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, I have to like move today. So then everyone was like, look, you came off work a little late. Just do it tomorrow. No, it will be done today. Okay. So I start loading up the truck myself. The last time I carried things where it's like, how is he lifting that by himself? A whole sort of like shelf thing, the whole bed frame, the whole mattress, it's all going in, the fridge, everything. And yeah, a very self, no, just like self-aggrandizing sort of like, or like making yourself feel good type thing where it's like, oh yeah, display of strength. Klein is from pretty much filling up the truck himself. He's packed his things, even if you guys are saying he shouldn't start off. Okay, cool. It might have been the last one. Anyway, we get into the truck, get to the place where I'm going to be staying now, which funny enough, I only stayed there for something like 2 months or 3 after the injury. But we're unloading now. It's at night. We were warned, don't do this at night. And the truck that had the stuff was on a hump at the gate. So it's one of those gates you sort of, I guess they're trying to make you slow down. Maybe it's like there's multiple people in the yard or whatever. So the tire was sitting on the hump, and that means it's a higher flatbed than the one I was jumping in and out of freely.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is I'm getting off, and I don't know why I did a one-leg landing, but I did a one-leg landing. Left leg, I felt it just immediately. It turned the wrong way, and it felt like it was coming back to correct itself, but it's like it's already too far. I'm just putting it back here so that we don't stay permanently, turning towards. Exactly. And yeah, so I felt that, and I remember a very silly thought is like, the noise you make right now can't be an embarrassing noise. So then it was just like this very quiet, like throttle grunt. and I, held my folded leg in place for a while, just leaning on the ground. My dad and my brother were there, my immediate young brother. And they're just like, what is it? Came, looked for me. I'm like, I hurt my knee. And yeah, they didn't know what it was about. I said, just give me a moment. They did. And yeah, in say 10 more minutes, I was back to getting in and out of the truck, unloading stuff without really knowing that I'm doing this on a bum ACL or a torn ACL. And yeah, that's my story. Eventually got surgery. And like I said, I'm still trying to get it to a place where it can do the things it used to do before. It's come a long way because post-surgery, I couldn't move the leg necessarily. Like you're supposed to at least be able to like lift it off the bed on, the first few hours or at least the next day after. Or at least in your first session of physiotherapy, because the first session of physiotherapy was after you've spent some time in a brace and whatnot. Anyway, yeah, I just couldn't lift it on the first day, and it was way smaller. It's crazy how much muscle volume you use just by not using.
I have a friend who tore his ACL, same thing.
Yeah. So for it to kind of look like they're the same sort of set of legs.
Come along.
Yeah, I'm happy with where.
Pretty sure you weren't wearing shorts for a while.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the story.
That's the party story.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So guys, when you get to a certain age, don't
jump off.
Don't jump off. Just like, have you seen those new like videos and memes that have been dropping where the guy tries to do something and then like he gets out on the other side, when he turns around he sees his body lying there.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Oh damn.
That
didn't work out.
From trying something silly like that.
And crazy enough, those memes are always about sort of turning 30, and that was just shortly after.
Hectic. So you've got the number now.
Yeah.
You turn 30, just behave yourself.
Chill.
Do you guys have anything else before I close off?
Yeah, I think I've exhausted you.
I think we.
Yeah, for me, just on the business side, which we were on earlier, for everybody who felt like the Axlerod transport management system is something that could work for their business, just go to the website. It's going to be in the description of the video, and get started on your 6-month free trial. You will be also seeing our support emails here and there in the marketing pieces that we put out, and potentially in the description of this video. So yes, you can reach out if you need any assistance getting started or just using the system.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Klein. We appreciate it. And like, as we like to say, you're a friend of the show. I think there was a lot of beyond the blueprint moments in there. I think this might be one of those aggravating episodes for some people where they'll be like, yeah, I agree with him. And some will be like, I definitely don't agree with him or them. But look, it's fine. That's what this is about. It's beyond the blueprint. We're trying to have conversations outside what people have as a structure, and some of those conversations might be uncomfortable. We already told you in the beginning, like, share, subscribe, and pay it forward. If we've got nothing else, thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Do you run a trucking company? Axelrod TMS manages your orders and documents, your workshop and repairs, and your fuel expenses. Plus, it has AI and advanced analytics. Increase your profits, take control, and make smarter decisions. Join Zambia's first AI-powered trucking system for 6 months free at axelrodtms.com to get started.